Hi, Alyssa. Ashley here. I hope you said something about hoping everyone is enjoying their time off, and you were like, "Oh, I am to an extent." And I just want to say, girl, I'm right there with you. I feel like I haven't really been able to enjoy it as much as I want, just because it's a huge shift. For the last 9 years, I feel like I've had my summers off into myself for the most part, and now it's like, oh, I have all this responsibility. But yeah, so I hear you and I feel you, and we're making it through. So first off, I wanted to say I think it's really awesome that you chose to challenge yourself and choose a different grade level. You said you normally work with secondary, and this was primary. These were primary grade levels that you chose to do this on, and that takes courage. I thought about doing that, but then I was like, no, I don't really know how, or I just didn't. I didn't. I don't know how I would do that. I'm sure I'll get to that at some point. And not only that, but you did a really awesome job. This lesson was really great, and I think I might be a little bit partial to it because I myself have like gone through some of these challenges, of self-awareness and feeling positive about myself and the past. And so I think this is a great lesson to do with kids, especially at that age, right before they're kind of going into middle school or in middle school. That's a really awkward time period. And kids are feeling lots of uncomfortable things about themselves. So yeah, I really loved it. I too hear you with the whole self love and affirmation thing. I think while social media can not be so great in some aspects, it's also really nice because it's a way that we know that kids, especially that age, are on social media, I think. And so being able to connect to them through something that they see outside of school. I don't know. There's like, oh, you know what affirmations are? I do too. And like, so I loved how you tied that in as well. So your topic was appreciation of one's uniqueness, being positive and accepting of oneself. Um, like I said, this is a powerful lesson to do, especially I think with young women and young girls. I feels like a lot of the time, especially mostly in elementary, I think what I see is more girls struggle with that a little bit more than boys do. So this is, as I said, it was really great to see, and I'm really happy that you chose to do this. And the video was so precious. I absolutely loved it. I loved how also culturally mindful it kind of was, in the sense of it wasn't just like this little blue-eyed, blonde-haired girl. She was a girl, I think I think I'm not sure what she was, but she was definitely of a minority. She had curly hair. I thought that's really important. And I think that's really, really important in today's society, because mostly not all the time, but what is idolized or seen on TV or in social media are these like beautiful, maybe not as much, but beautiful white women. And so when bringing in a minority is powerful for those kiddos, I think that they're not often as recognized in social media as white women. So that was a really side note that I thought was awesome. I love that you used the mirror. Mirrors in elementary are so fun. They're so fun to use because kids, and I'm sure there's fun to use in middle school and high school, but sometimes I don't really think that kids that young think about what they look like as much. And so when they see themselves and they like laugh at themselves and will make funny faces, it's a lot of fun. And you use that. That was good. Um, you I love that. One thing I thought of when you were doing this is, man, this is kind of it's a really vulnerable position to put kids in, because it's not often that we do say positive things about ourselves, and then if we do say it, it's like, oh, she's just bragging on herself. There's a lot of judgment that comes with that, or he's just bragging on himself. And I think there's so a lot of the times it's uncomfortable for girls to feel that way, or to share with their peers, because there's this fear of judgment that's going to come from that, instead of just this like, oh girl, you love yourself, like you're loving on yourself right now. So I was really thought it was a great idea to do that in a small group, a more of an intimate setting, where it's just a few people. It's not necessarily everyone, and that's kind of a safe space. You had talked about this would be something you had done with an established group where trust was already built. So those are really important things, especially with these types of situations where kids want to be a little bit more vulnerable, or might want to be a little bit more vulnerable, but aren't necessarily ready to share in a large group setting. You talked about that within your barriers also, and that was something that I think is really important to think about and to be cognizant of in delivering this type of a lesson, because you want to give that, you want to hold that space, you want to hold the space for them to feel comfortable, but you don't want it to feel forced. I love how you had them first write it down on a piece of paper. That's nice because it is really intimate. That's like an intimate thing for, I think, a girl to do, is to write those things down and to be willing to see it on paper first, and then the sharing, and then looking at yourself in the mirror saying those things. I remember the first time I looked at myself in the mirror and was telling myself things, it felt nice things about myself, and it felt so incredibly uncomfortable to do that. So I loved how you gave them the opportunity to share in that way, or share with themselves in that way. But also you had the opportunity for them to share with their peers. Those were really great ideas. And then you talked about strategies, different strategies that they could utilize to implement themselves at home, like with the sticky notes on the mirror, or just daily little like reminders. Those are, I think it's never too soon to start, realizing the good within us, and the positive, not just within our physical or within ourself, but our physical self too, in order to build that self-esteem and self-confidence. And then let me just go over this. Oh yeah, you talked about your two other things. Is you talked about your approach and your body language, and coming with it from an unbiased perspective, and just realizing that maybe not everybody buys into this self-love affirmation kind of thing. So just being aware of you might run into that, and that's okay, and it just takes time. You know that it takes time, as you said, to build that trust and establish that relationship in order for these kids to feel comfortable, um, for you to hold that space for them to be that way. But yeah, this was a really great lesson. I really loved it and enjoyed it. And again, you did a really great job, being that you went out of your comfort zone. So congratulations to you. And I look forward to seeing what comes next. Bye.